This week's Torah reading is called Behaalotcha, which means when you light up. And it starts talking about Aharon, the priest, lighting up the candles of the candelabra, the menorah. However, there are many stories and subjects, different ideas that are spoken about in this parsha. I would like to point one particular idea, and it's the man. Man means manna. It used to be the food that the Jewish people ate around 40 years throughout their traveling through the desert. Now, in this particular parsha, the Jewish people complained to God that they don't have the food, they don't have drink, they want to go back to Egypt and so on. So God basically gives them manna. Now, it used to come down in different ways from different kind of people. That means for those who were righteous, it used to come down right by the door of their tent. For those who were, in Hebrew, Beinanim, intermediate people, it used to come down outside of the camp, and they had to go outside the camp and gather it and so on. And for those who were wicked people, it used to come down actually very far from camp. They had to go out and look for it and gather it and bring it down, and not just bring it into their houses, they had to process it. That means for tzaddikim, for righteous people, it was ready to be eaten. For those intermediate, some work had to be done. And for those who were wicked, they had to really work it out, just as if it was bread. And our sages explain that there's a very interesting difference between bread from the ground, from the earth, so to speak, regular bread, as we know it, and bread from the heavens. Bread from the earth, besides the fact that you have to actually work in order to go from plowing and sowing and so on until you get actually a piece of bread. In addition to that, it has waste. You eat, and then whatever, the waste goes out of the body. But bread from heaven had no waste at all. Again, some people had to work in order to get it. Some people didn't have to work so much, and for some people fell in the door of their tent. But in addition to that, it didn't have any waste at all. It was a very special thing. Now, every single thing in the world comes out of the Torah. Why? Because our sages say that God looked into the Torah and created the world. So the Torah is like a blueprint of the whole creation. And therefore, we have to find these two aspects of bread in the Torah itself. Moreover, the Torah itself is called bread because it goes into the person and it actually modifies, just like the bread becomes part of the person, it modifies the whole body, the whole mind, the whole soul of a person. So Torah is also called bread. As it says, your Torah, God, says David HaMelech, King David, is inside my inners. So that means Torah is bread. And again, in this bread we have two expressions. Bread from the earth and bread from the heavens. The bread from the earth represents the revealed part of the Torah. That means things that everybody can study, like the 5 books of Moses, or the rest of the Bible, so to speak, and the Talmud, which in itself has the Mishnah and the Gemara and the law and so on. That's the revealed part of the Torah. And then there's a hidden part of the Torah, an innermost part of the Torah, Pnimius HaTorah, which is Hasidic teachings, which connect in a much revealed way a person to God. You could learn hours and hours, pages and pages of the revealed Torah, and you forget about God because you're learning about this rabbi, arguing with this rabbi, and maybe this law and this opinion and the other, and you forget about God. Sometimes you go through the pages of the Talmud and God is not even mentioned. They're just arguing what the law is in certain cases. But when you learn the innermost part of the Torah, Hasidic teachings, you're learning about God. You're learning about how to connect to God. What does He expect from you? And so on. So it's impossible to forget about Him because you're learning about Him, actually. Now, just as the bread from earth had waste and you had to work for it, and the bread from heaven didn't have any waste and usually didn't have to work for it, the same thing happens with Torah. The revealed part of the Torah, you have to work in order to understand. Again, one argument, another argument, one page, one rabbi, and so on. You have to work for it. There are questions and answers and proofs and so on. For the innermost part of the Torah, our sages explain, there's no waste at all. It's just, in Yiddish we say glatt. Glatt means smooth. You go through it and you learn about God, and immediately awakens within a person love for God, fear for God, and so on. Now, we could think that the innermost part of the Torah is for special people. You could think about that. Why? Because just as the man used to come down in the door of the tent for the tzaddikim, for the righteous people, so maybe it's not even for the wicked people. And we learned from the man, actually, that came down, that also had an effect in the wicked people. Okay, they had to work for it, but it had an effect anyway. The same thing happens with the innermost part of the Torah. Those who think that it is not proper for certain people to learn the most precious and the most inner and the most elevated and holy part of the Torah, they're wrong. And even non-Jews also have to learn at least certain parts of the innermost part of the Torah. Why? Because it talks about God. It talks about God. And it leads you to live a life of connection to your Creator. It leads you to understand the unity of God. What does it mean that there's only God? There's one God, and the only thing that it is around is God. What does it mean to serve Him? What does it mean to develop love for Him, fear for Him? All these ideas, they also apply to non-Jews. And even though there are certain parts of the Torah that are forbidden to be learned by non-Jews, however, certain parts of Hasidic teachings definitely are important for non-Jews to learn them also and to understand them in order, again, to develop and to have a better relationship with God, which is actually what God is expecting from us, for us to know Him and to understand Him. And for that, you have to learn the innermost part of the Torah. And that's what it means that the man used to come down also for the wicked people, not just for the righteous people, for the tzaddikim. And that means that the innermost part of the Torah has to also be learned and actually gives improvement to the service of God for every single person in the world, for every single Jew in the world, those who are in the level of tzaddikim, righteous people, those who are in the level of Beinonim, intermediate people, and also those who are in the level of Reshoim, wicked Jews. And that includes, also has to be learned, not just for the Jews, also for non-Jews. And interestingly, we also learned this from the man. Our sages explain that when the man came down, if you did not gather it, for whatever reason, it was too much or whatever, it melted into water. And that water got mixed into rivers and different places where the water was, and the animals used to drink that water. And when a non-Jew caught that animal in order to eat the meat, they tasted the taste of man. They knew the taste of the man because the animal drank the water that actually came from the man, and so on. And by then tasting this meat with actually the taste of man, they knew the praise of the Jewish people. So by learning the Torah, the revealed part of the Torah, and the innermost part of the Torah, of course, those ideas that do apply to non-Jews, and if you don't know which ideas actually apply or don't apply, ask your rabbi, of course. By learning that, you develop your relationship with God, and you come to understand the praise of Torah.